What up, guys?
Hey guys.
Welcome to episode 8
Eight.
of Immersive Talks. Here with Jan
Sup?
and Marco from Immersive Arts. Well, I don't know. Immersive Arts is
A concept.
it's a concept. It's an idea. It's also a group of people. It's
an amazing entity here based in Berlin. We're a group who creates interactive installations, and that has a very, very broad meaning. So part of this podcast is explaining what we do and also thinking about what we will do.
Yeah,
and
but
what's possible.
also talking about the place of technology and new media art and new media into art. And it's a very interesting topic because it's here. We live surrounded by technology, and so many people are using it as a way, as a new media to have to make art in different ways, and we have to talk about it.
And art is timeless.
We have to talk about it. That's why.
So, Marco, what are we talking about today?
Today we're talking about
Spaces.
A concept. I don't know if it coming from. Well, we can talk about it. But anyway, the concept or the idea of using neglected or unused, abandoned spaces.
Reclaiming.
That's true.
Reclaiming abandoned spaces.
Reclaiming these spaces not only on a physical sense, like literally places in the city or like real spaces, but because we talk we are immersive and we talk about technology and art, we would like to expand the concept on a more virtual form eventually. So I don't know if it's because we live in Berlin, Jen, or
yeah, I was gonna say I think this concept came because of exactly that. It's because we're here in Berlin. It's a huge theme here.
Yeah, there's a lot of these spaces. Well, it started after the wall, actually. In the 90s already, there was this as soon as the wall came down and the USSR fell, and there were so many of these spaces that basically remain without any actual landlord, or without actually nobody. So there was all these places for free for young people to take, and artists, and Berlin, especially West Berlin, was full of artists and people doing art and music and stuff like that. You all know the stories, and otherwise look at some documentaries. I'm not a fucking history.
History lesson.
But so that's why the club scene in Berlin is so famous, because all these places then became bars, they became clubs, and people were throwing like parties and shit like that.
Quick fun fact. I can't remember his name, but I saw a documentary on a guy who actually created his entire now like $1 million company by doing exactly that. He had a bar. I guess now you would call it a pop-up bar, but all that remained the same was the name. The location changed almost every week. Whenever he got kicked out, he would bring the bar to another space because there were so fucking many empty spaces. And it was super cool because you would have to do a scavenger hunt to find where your favorite bar was.
Man, that's the power of branding. You don't need a fucking space. You just need a name, an entity.
Exactly.
And then it can move around.
And some people.
So yeah, I don't know if it's here in Berlin specifically. So now there are still this kind of vibe. Berlin is getting a little bit gentrified.
So crowded.
Yeah, so it's there's actually kind of a lack of spaces, even though they're there's still a lot of abandoned spaces and things like this. But
I'll tell you why. It's because everyone came from the U.S. Who's avoiding their student loans came here to study for free.
They're all running, guys.
Cough, cough.
Fuck. I don't even know how it works. But no one is paying back, that's for sure.
I ain't paying that shit back. Let's block that out for all the bill collectors who are coming my way.
No. Or, I don't know if maybe it's just happening now in general because of the type of social political situation of our time. Like, millennials are poor as fuck. In general. We're a poor how do you say, like
age group,
age
generation,
yes.
Yeah. But I think we're poor purposely because this generation is going toward our dreams, so we're a little happy with being more broke and following what it is we really want to do versus just finding a job, because I think finding a regular day job is not hard, but millennials can't fucking handle it. I'm speaking for myself, but I think I speak for everyone when I say fuck a 9 to 5 and we can do our dreams now.
I mean, fuck, there's no such a thing as having a job for life anymore. I don't even know if people want it anymore.
It may not be possible because who knows, maybe 5-10 years your job won't exist anymore. It'll be automated. So good luck having that major in college, being 100,000 in debt, and then you get out and that job is gone.
Yeah, and also like the internet and technology and stuff like that is enabling so many people to actually make a lot of businesses and stuff like that with literally zero cost. You know,
there's a great documentary that everyone should check out called The Third Industrial Revolution, and he definitely discusses this about having zero marginal costs in business, which is basically a concept that was listed as the archetype or as the perfect scenario when you don't need to pay for any material or any distribution or anything, and then you make a profit. They would model this in universities saying, okay, this is the perfect situation, but it would never happen. And now here we are, 2018, 2019, and you can literally distribute for free, produce for free, and make a profit. That's the world we live in.
And also market it to the entire world, like, send it to entire world with literally zero marginal cost is what it says, right?
To get 1 million views 15 years ago on a TV station would cost millions. Millions. Now you can get it if you fart with a lighter, and your sister catches on fire, or
send like millions, sell 1 million copies of this CD. You have to make 1 million copy of CDs to sell 1 million copies.
Cost of CDs, fucking distribution, and hope that a couple people buy it.
And literally now you can just upload a fucking YouTube video, and you get 500 million views. You get a shit ton of money out of it, and you didn't spend anything. Literally all it's all money for you.
But we digress.
But it's the social political, let's say, thing that is around this idea of repurposing neglected spaces, in my opinion, because people are getting a little bit more trying to get a little bit more creative with their ideas, and they make their own businesses, and therefore there is a need of spaces for cheap let's say, that's one part, in my opinion. But then there's also the interesting thing of literally reusing these spaces to be involved more into the urban life. These abandoned spaces which were literally forgotten by everyone in the city now are retaken and repurposed it, well, for us, for art, because it's a really beautiful excuse.
Yeah.
Not only visual art, but everything, not only for an exhibition, but also for concerts or, cultural events, whatever they are.
And people, it's not just abandoned completely. There's actually a culture here in Berlin for companies who are selling their properties and new companies are buying them. Since there's so many artists here in Berlin, the companies actually open the doors to the building in this weird in-between phase before they come in and remodel and stuff. So they actually allow artists to come in and make events and stuff, which is what helped us have a free venue for several of our events. Having these companies be like, well, fuck it, we're not doing anything with it right now, just like
for the next don't burn the place down. Yeah. And you have this space to use however you want. You can also paint on the walls, do whatever the fuck you want.
Because they're going to remodel.
Because they're going to remodel everything.
Yeah. So that's part of the culture that's super awesome here. I mean, I've heard it also in Philadelphia. Shout out to Philly. It's where I'm from, if you guys don't know. But I've heard that they also do the same. Because there's some abandoned spaces and some people take them for events. Mm-hmm. But the culture is a little different. Like, if you're caught trespassing, you can get some jail time. Mm-hmm. It's not like here where the police are a little more understanding and they kind of shoo you away. Mm-hmm. In Philly, it's like, well, sorry, bud. Get the fuck out of here. 10 years prison sentence for stepping on the cement stairs.
Yeah, I mean, most of the time is also so easy getting it legally. Like, you can literally ask the people, and it's like, I mean, what the fuck are you doing with this anyway? Mm-hmm. Like, if anything, we are helping you by bringing these events and stuff like this, and make your area look good again.
Yeah, that's a good point. We're bringing life to it. And if anything, all the people who came to our event now know this venue. Mm-hmm. So when you do open up something, hopefully it's cool, then they already are aware of the location and they'll come back.
There's literally have some cultural significance, but also some significance for all the people in the city, because they went to this event and it was amazing. Everyone remembers the space, and now everyone that will go there, it's like, oh shit, I've been here already.
Yeah. And aside from accessibility for us artists and poor people, you also have the cool factor. I mean, I don't know if you guys have ever been into an abandoned warehouse or something like that, but it has this nice industrial kind of grungy feel to it. And beside the fucking heroin needles and empty beer
clean
bottles.
First, clean the space first.
Definitely recommend cleaning that shit with some bleach. But aside from, accessibility, you have this cool aesthetic, which meshes really well with techno music and music in general. And with what immersive does with technology, it can sometimes be a hassle, but at the same time, using projection and things other than hanging traditional paintings on the wall is actually a really good combo. Like, sometimes you have this problem of, fuck, this is a cement wall, can't put a nail, we need a huge drill to even hang a piece of work. But with immersive, using tech, we can project, do some projection mapping, some artwork in the wall, these things.
Yeah, and I mean, fuck it. The cool thing is that you can just make holes because no one gives a fuck anyway.
True.
So that's the beauty of it. And I think it's also interesting to use technology into these abandoned spaces, because, when you think about technology, you think about sleek, fucking precise computing is all like fresh, very almost unhuman, of course, like too precise, very sleek. Like when you think about MacBooks and like that kind of thing, you think when technology is always clean technology, but giving it some contrast with like the grunginess, the raw, and sometimes exactly like techno music, in my opinion, gives you the same, or like rave. I don't know. It gives you the same type of feeling. It's usually like connected to industrial spaces, and in my opinion, it gives this very interesting contrast, in terms of mood and look and aesthetic, which in my opinion is super cool.
That's so true. And the aesthetic of the actual location means that you yourself can match that aesthetic as well. So I don't know if you've ever been to a really fancy club, but a lot of girls will wear their heels and like nice fancy dress, which is hurting hard as shit at the end of the night. But in these industrial exhibitions and parties, you can be super Berlin, and that aesthetic is like jeans, sneakers, hoodie,
casual.
You can be
fuck.
yourself. You know, I can go to dance and go to club and go to have fun. I don't need to be in heels. Like, good luck going into abandoned warehouse and with some heels on, girlfriend.
So, like, as immersive, I think we found a little bit this aesthetic just by chance, kind of, because
circumstance.
Yeah, by circumstance. So there's this beautiful like aesthetic that comes out from using these neglected spaces that we want to reuse, you know. And we do like the idea of reusing these spaces because they have such an interesting history sometimes, and the look is just impossible to recreate in a different way, you know. Like you can't make the same in other venues that are new, or, you know, it's
almost natural but not. If you think about it, there's nothing natural about it. Like, you're in this industrial location with a bunch of technology. There's not much natural happening to it, but it's like urban natural.
It's urban cool, or but like this idea of grungy and rawness is I really love.
And really realness. I mean, that's the theme going into 2019 is authenticity, realness. Like, if I'm going into a place, I want to be dressed how I want to dress, and I want to, you know, experience something unique.
Yeah. So we've been exploring that part, and
yeah. So you have the real spaces.
Yeah, and now we were thinking it in terms of virtual space. So what Immersive does a lot of the time is not only have the real in real life counterpart of our exhibitions and experiences, but also we like the idea of having a virtual counterpart of the same experience or exhibition that lives on the web, right? Because the web is a new medium. It's there, and we there is a part of us that lives in the virtual world, on Instagram, Facebook, blah blah blah.
It's just as real as the physical space.
Yeah, and we have to explore it because it's there. I mean, why wouldn't you explore it? As an artist, it's there to be explored. So what would be the real counterpart, the virtual counterpart of these neglected spaces?
Well, first, before you go into it, we should tell them about the game.
Yeah.
So Immersive and everyone within it likes to play this fun game, which is just thinking of the virtual counterpart to things that exist in the physical space. An example could be like, what is a table? So you can describe what a table is in the physical space. A table holds things, holds my glass, is something I work at, something that supports my essential tools. So you describe what it is in the physical space, and then the fun part is to think about what a table would be in the virtual space. So what would that look like? Something that supports my tools, something that I can work on. You just start aligning the essential factors of what a table is.
Yeah, and then conceptually what a table is. You know what a table does.
Which is actually really amazing because humans do this as children. You tell a child, like, okay, this is a table, that's a table, that's a table. And pretty soon they can distinguish the concept of a table no matter what it looks like. If I have a huge magazine that's sitting on my lap to support my hot chocolate, I would call that a table. And a child can pick that up very quickly. It's an amazing thing to break stuff down to its essential, authentic meaning. And that's what happens when you transition physical items or ideas or even people into the virtual space. So we've played that with spaces itself.
We played it with spaces as well. And if you consider the internet as a whole, as like a city,
or a world, even,
or a world where you go in and you literally either talk to people, like for example, you use Google and you go to a chat stuff, I don't know, like Facebook or whatever, and you can talk to people. If you go to YouTube, you can see a live of a thing, so it's like your virtual self going to the bar, or it's like going to a concert. It's literally the same.
I can go to a restaurant, order food.
You can go to a restaurant, you can go to everything. So what are neglected spaces? Like what are abandoned spaces on the web? Well, we can we can get some idea out already without even thinking about that much, but
send us your ideas as well.
That's true.
Write down 3 ideas right now before we even go into it, and then send it to us, email, Instagram, Facebook message.
So already because the internet as a mass media or like very popular media has already some years. Some of us used to use like MySpace, for example. MySpace or whatever, like fucking
that's my favorite
Netlog, like this kind of shit. Okay.
What is Netlog?
I don't know.
Did you just make that up,
no,
Marco?
I'm pretty sure it exists. See, I don't even. It's like a different.
What was that one that was before Facebook? It was like My Yearbook. Do you remember My Yearbook?
No.
Maybe it was a more.
I was in
US
Italy,
thing.
Guys. I don't. This stuff didn't arrive. The first thing that arrived was Facebook. But really? MSN, like AIM, this shit, they're where the fuck are they?
Yahoo,
they're I mean, Yahoo is still around, but
who really uses Yahoo? Cough.
Like if we see these spaces as abandoned, like not used, but they're there, or like the data is somewhere around, I don't know,
or even neglected, like it's not being taken care of. There's a lot of dust in the corners.
How can we as immersive, or like
we as artists
like retake these spaces and actually use it for something? Like how can, in the same way now we do an art event to retake a space,
bring people inside
the space, how can we achieve the same with a space like this? And I think it's very interesting for companies, in my opinion. I don't know if we want to get into it, but if you want to get a lot of traffic to your website, because
take MySpace for example, use them.
Yeah, okay. For example, MySpace wants to revive its brand. Okay.
God bless them.
Wants to revive its brand because it's a brand. It gives some nostalgia. Blah blah blah. It's just like now, if we dress up in 80s clothes, it gives some nostalgia, right? Maybe one day we will use MySpace as again for some nostalgia reason. Bringing out the brand. Don't
want to check those DMs.
Exactly. Sander's been left there for years. So it is possible to create experiences that are purposely both virtual and physical, that can revive these spaces, these like neglected virtual spaces that exist, like these neglected domains.
Well, first let's think virtually, right? Mm-hmm. Because virtually what would need to happen is that we bring some digital traffic back to the website. Mm-hmm. That could be in whatever form that you can think of. Like maybe you click some buttons on the homepage and you get 10 followers on your Instagram page. I don't know. So now everyone's going to the MySpace homepage in order to click this button and blah, blah, blah. There's more interesting things. But then what you're getting into is also this physical component where maybe something is happening, maybe MySpace has an event in the physical space, which also brings them to the website, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there are two ways to do it. Another way could be literally just setting up very well marketed, of course, events that just happen on the web. So for example, if you just imagine if you have a really famous artist that is gonna take over, in quotes, the website with a cool experience on the web, okay, and you can experience that event from this day to this day. I mean, that would be interesting. I would definitely do it if it's definitely well marketed and I know it from Instagram that this is happening. I can just literally change tab on my browser and just go into that, and there you go. You have some traffic and you have the first example of proper and only internet art, like virtual internet art.
It's literally reclamation, like reclaiming these spaces. You can even utilize the functions in a nostalgic way. So if you make an experience in MySpace, I guess we'll stick with this example, just thinking of it as maybe like a scavenger hunt. So using the direct messages, maybe one task is that you need to direct message someone and then you need to post something on your page and do some fun HTML thing that's on your website. Like, it doesn't just have to be to go to the website, period. You can actually play around with what MySpace's unique functions were.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, of course, it depends on the project that one wants to do. But I also, like, for example, I was just imagining a literal experience on that happens there.
Yeah, that would be cool. But I think it is also interesting to use what that website was for in the first place.
Yeah,
in some way, like not just having traffic going to one location, because otherwise you could just make a new URL. Why go back to MySpace or something? It would be kind of fun, in my mind anyway, to use the functions that website was doing beforehand. Like, I don't know, maybe it was a webcam page or something. So when someone hosts an event on that abandoned web page, it has to do something with webcams.
Yeah.
Don't let your mind travel with that.
Old stuff. Yeah. It depends, of course, on the project that you want to make. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. It's the amount of stuff that you can think about from this is quite a lot, actually. And you can think about themes, like 90s theme stuff, like all these different things that now the internet is almost, well, yeah, it's an adult. And therefore there's so much already that there's an entire generation that has been brought up on the web.
Yeah.
So the web is incredible and now very we can say huge.
Back in my day.
Yeah, a very huge part of our life, and it was also a very huge part of our life that needs to be explored and has feelings attached to it. Yeah. That artists can definitely look into and explore and live and create out of.
Rekindle.
Yeah.
Marco, what's one website that you would want to see rekindled or reclaimed, revived?
The thing is that I arrived to the internet game a little later. Like,
really? That surprises me.
Like the first thing that I was using was MSN, but that's like, if anything, some of the Flash games websites, like
Flash.
Yeah, so
what?
Some websites were having these games that were made with Flash.
When you had to download like Flash and
they were just online games, and that was interesting. I don't know, most of them might be even around, I don't know, but they were for example crashed by the apps on the phone, because now why would you go to a website? You can just download a free app on your phone and you can play there. But back in the days, you would have like these little games on like websites. That's kind of interesting. That's kind of interesting. What about you?
Well, honestly, the first thing that came to mind was Literotica, because, well, fun fact for you guys, I used to read a lot of like story porn. I don't know if that's the right term, but pretty much like these little sex stories that were on there back when I didn't like Google porn because I didn't know what it was, but they would just have these fun stories that were nice and sweet and, less ramming a cock into your ass type thing.
Right.
But these were very boring. Like, it would literally be 3 links to some story that like Fat Joe wrote in his basement, blah blah blah, and that kind of died off pretty.
Fan thing.
Yeah, like a fan thing.
Well,
so that would be kind of fun to revive and make that a little more exciting.
If you want to revive Fanrotica, you can find us on Instagram and Facebook at Immersive Art.
Hashtag revive Literotica. Let's go.
Please, let's make it happen. And you can find us also on a website at www.immersivearts.com. And that was it. Hashtag revive, apparently it's happening.
Yes. Send us your feedback, send us questions, send us your ideas. We are always curious to hear from you.
Yeah, and play the game, the virtualizing game.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. You can get so much interesting stuff out of that. Well, guys, I'll talk to you later, and I'll see you in the next episode.
See ya.
See ya.